Welcome fellow explorers to Project Makirraji. In the last episode, we saw how the creatures of Makirraji adapted to the abundance of the planet's rainforests. In this episode, we will check in on the planet's water worlds to see how life has been evolving since we ventured onto land. This episode will take us back in time to when life on land was just getting started. We will see how aquatic life handles some of the harshest conditions it has yet faced, as well as new abundance never before seen. Going back in time, we find ourselves at the beginning of life on land. Plant life is spreading across the continents, and the first land dwellers are only just starting to haul themselves out of the water. The land is quiet, with only the sound of leaves in the wind bringing some life to this new frontier. However, in the water, life is flourishing in abundance. Everywhere you look, there is life in all shapes and sizes. When most people look at these two worlds, they often see them as separate, but in reality, land and water are connected in many ways. Each has some effect on the other, and sometimes those effects can be disastrous. As plants grow and die on land, their dead bodies are left behind. And at this early stage of life on land, there aren't yet any microbes or other decomposers to break down the plant matter. This leads to a massive buildup of organic matter that is then washed into the oceans. The organic matter is then broken down by plankton and other microbes. This causes mass blooms of phytoplankton, and when those plankton die, they sink to the ocean floor, which uses up massive amounts of oxygen. This oxygen depletion was on such a great scale that it had widespread effects on the oceans as a whole. Oxygen depletion affects all aspects of the ocean. Oxygen depletion affects how chemicals cycle through the oceans. It can stall chemical reactions that require oxygen and even release harmful gases into the air. However, the most obvious effect of oxygen depletion is that life needs oxygen to survive, and without it, die off is inevitable. The first to be affected are the inhabitants of the deep sea. The effects of oxygen depletion are felt first in deeper waters. The first to go would be creatures such as the Guscatta, who can't move to escape suffocation. Next, slow-moving creatures such as the Alata and the Penetauton, who are mostly restricted to the ocean floor, would die out. And as these creatures go, the Alata who cling to them will too. Then, larger creatures who have higher oxygen demands would suffer. Creatures such as the Cicrarella and the Pregrandata may not be able to escape extinction. Moving up into brighter waters, the effects of this anoxic event will be felt just as severely. The Viata that are restricted to the seabed would be hit especially hard, seeing as they cannot swim to more oxygenated waters. This also goes for other creatures restricted to the seabed. The Sabascosta, Baculta, Planeta, Cribicalta, and the Phodinosus will eventually die out. The ancestral clade of Viata may be saved by their sheer diversity, although they too would face heavy casualties. The Guscatta would be an obvious victim of the anoxic event, and the species that live in deeper waters will die out. However, the species that live in shallower waters may survive. The next to go would be large creatures that need more oxygen. The Primanti, Crastrum, and the Telluranti would be swiftly snuffed out. As all these clades die out, their predators will follow, leading to the extinction of the Nugapalla, Verarella, Ferularella, and the Venalarella. Aquatic vegetation may not lose many species, but they will indeed decrease in numbers. Areas called dead zones, where close to no oxygen is present, block almost all life, plant or animal, from living there. The loss of their main habitat may result in the extinction of the Fucipenta, Folgola, and the Fastella. Other casualties include the Gigdola, Constipala, Lucera lata, and the Cadola. These clades died out due to a number of reasons. Some simply couldn't handle their ecosystems being thrown into chaos, and others exhausted all their resources with no competition to stop them. This ocean anoxic event wiped out so many species and clades that it can be considered Makirraji's first mass extinction. On Earth, an almost identical event took place, leading to the extinction of some of the most dominant species in the oceans, such as the armored fish, Dunkleosteus. In the aftermath of the mass extinction, the ocean ecosystems would be left shattered. Countless niches will be left vacant, and entire branches of the ocean cladogram would be extinct. However, not all clades may be in such a sorry state. The Altata of the deep survived the mass extinction with minimal losses. With all the dominant species wiped out, these deep-sea Altata may be in a prime position to take control of the oceans. As they rise from the deep, they may first begin to speciate into a clade of fast-swimming generalists. Perhaps their bodies may become more streamlined and their fins would become almost entirely made of muscle. These adaptations allow them to slice through the water at incredible speeds. This allows them to travel long distances in search of food, mates, or to escape predators. These creatures may also develop a form of schooling behavior, with groups containing up to 100 individuals. During the breeding season, many groups may swarm the coastal regions, quickly dissolving among the mass of bodies. Once mating season ends, groups split off from the mating horde, shuffling the members of any given group each mating season. We'll call these creatures the Mithrodendus. Most of the apex predators were wiped out in the extinction. And as new food sources begin to emerge, a clade of Altata may come to dominate. They may adapt for a predatory lifestyle. This may come with an increase in body size. Their boneless bodies are supported by the water, with the largest species growing to over 5 meters in length. These creatures may also undergo an adaptation never before seen in any Viata clade. They may evolve a new type of swimming. Up until now, most free-swimming Viata relied on anguilliform swimming, or simply beating their fins. This form of swimming works well enough, but in more competitive environments such as the open ocean, adaptation is required. Therefore, these creatures may evolve a rudimentary tail fin, and the muscles in their posterior may specialize for tail-driven swimming. This would allow them to achieve carangiform swimming. This form of swimming involves only the caudal parts of the body. This new form of swimming would enable them to effectively catch up to their prey, keep pace, and secure a kill. These are among some of the first truly dominant Altata. However, once they have found their prey, they will need a way of killing it. You see, if the predator were to simply lunge at the prey, it would displace a substantial amount of water, possibly even pushing the prey out of reach. This can be solved by evolving more streamlined forms or evolving appendages that can secure the prey without disrupting too much water. These predatory Altata already have 2 tentacles, so perhaps they get longer. They may use their tentacles to probe swarms of prey without startling them, giving them time to strike. Once the predator is ready to attack, its tentacles will wildly whip around, which disorients their prey, giving them time to pull it towards their mouth. We will call these predators the Whooponidas. Yet other Altata may take advantage of the lack of large filter feeders. The abundant plankton made it through the extinction, although they too suffered losses. They quickly rebounded, however, providing sustenance to a new group of Altata. Their tentacles are lined with tiny hairs that sift through the water, catching all manner of tiny organisms. As seen many times on Earth, these filter-feeding Altata may grow extremely large, becoming the largest Viata to have ever existed. Their large body may be extremely hard to maneuver using only the fins on the sides of their bodies. Thus they are extremely slow, but that isn't a problem when your food source can't swim away. Their large size also gives them protection from most all predators. We'll call these giants of the sea the Trophotendes. In the shallow waters near the continents, the last species of Guscatta remain. This once widespread clade has now been reduced to nearly nothing. However, the Guscatta species that survive may find themselves in the perfect position to surpass their previous diversity by many orders of magnitude. The only Guscatta that survived were the ones that lived in shallow waters where oxygen depletion was less severe. And as they spread back out after the extinction has passed, they begin ferociously competing for resources. As these creatures grow and die, their shells are left behind and can be used as substrate for new Guscatta to grow. Over time, this process of death and recolonization can create vast areas of intricate structures which other life can utilize. For the sake of simplicity, we will call these Guscatta corals, even though they have no relation to Earth coral. In reality, there have been many different clades which could be considered coral throughout the history of life on Earth. These Guscatta reefs would be comprised of tens of thousands of individual corals, each species being specialized for a specific role in the reef. Some could retain their filter-feeding behaviors, and others could be predatory. Perhaps some even form symbiotic relations with other species. The diversity of Makirraji's reefs could be comparable to the rainforests on land. We'll call these reef-building creatures the Abathoscata. The Abathoscata reefs are an ideal habitat for new life. From predators to prey, the reef has no shortage of unique niches. Perhaps a clade of Viata may find a home here. The reef's colorful nature makes it so that animals camouflaged for other substrates would be helplessly visible. This may be the case for the Viata. Their slow-moving nature means they can easily escape predators. Therefore, these Viata may alter their coloration to bright blues and greens to match the reef. This solution may be effective, but some may take it to its extreme. Just like in the rainforest, mimicry will be abundant in the reefs. And the Abathoscata that comprise the reef will be the perfect models. These Viata may develop long spikes made up of muscle. These spikes resemble the tentacles of the Abathoscata and will keep most predators at bay. We'll call these creatures the Carabonts. The reefs will be home to many clades. Perhaps one of the most abundant predatory clades would be the Avantabuca. During the mass extinction, the Avantabuca had to abandon their burrowing lifestyle and were pushed into the shallows. Now, many surviving Avantabuca species do not burrow. However, the shallows had just enough oxygen to support a small number of burrowing species, and now, the shallows are their last stronghold. The Avantabuca of the reefs may take advantage of the natural holes, using them to ambush prey. Their long, boneless bodies allow them to squeeze between narrow spaces. Burrowing Avantabuca are more suited to an ambush lifestyle and thus aren't very fast. The many holes and hiding places of the reef will give them plenty of ambush strategies, allowing them to catch prey much faster than themselves. As they adapt to life in the reef, their coloration may change to match their vibrant background. Their bodies may adopt striking and intricate patterns of reds, yellows, purples, blues, greens, and everything in between. These patterns would break up their outline against the reef, making them extremely hard to spot. For hunters, accuracy is everything. One small mistake could lead to starvation. This is especially so for ambush hunters who cannot chase down their prey or get a chance to try again. Once their position is exposed, their ambush strategies become useless. Therefore, ambush hunters on Earth often evolve measures to increase their accuracy rate, such as longer teeth or claws. In the case of these Avantabuca, they don't have long claws or teeth. However, their tentacles may be prime candidates for adaptation. Perhaps the tentacles develop into large sacs. When the hunter lunges at prey, these sacs will open, and even if the prey isn't caught in the teeth, it may still be in the predator's tentacles. They won't have to worry about water displacement, as in most cases, the prey is already close enough that even if they were pushed away, they would still be in the predator's range. We will call these expert ambushers the Chlorabuca. The oceans won't be the only water worlds impacted by the anoxic event. Freshwater ecosystems such as rivers and lakes won't be directly affected by the drop in dissolved oxygen, seeing as water is constantly entering the water through the splashes of rivers and lakes. However, animals that rely on the ocean, such as the Iterola, who spend a good portion of their lives in the ocean, may suffer. The drop in oxygen means the young Iterola won't be able to forage for food on the seabed, and thus their numbers will decrease. This will impact their predators, such as the Hastarella and the Imperata. These clades may lose some species, but overall they will make it through the extinction. On Kyphora there would be similar die-out. The Scopocrista would be one of many that benefit from the die-out. All the dead bodies that sink to the river bed would provide an abundance of food. In the darkest of rivers, it is beneficial to be able to find food before someone else does. Thus, the Scopocrista in these habitats may begin to adapt. They may push their sensory adaptations to the extreme. Each tentacle would split into a frenzy of smaller sensory appendages. Their fins would reduce in size, becoming nearly useless. Their eyes may shrink, save for one pair which becomes their dominant eyes. In order to see in the murky water, their largest pair of eyes may become so sensitive that they have to close it if they ever find themselves exposed to sunlight. These creatures have pushed their sensory adaptations to the extreme. They probe the river and lake beds searching for any scraps of food. Their movements are slow and deliberate. We will call these strange creatures the Inimacrista. All the aquatic clades we have discussed thus far will hold dominion over the planet's aquatic ecosystems for millions of years. However, they may soon face competition from some extremely strange opponents. Many clades on Earth fall under the veil of semiaquatic creatures. However, the term semiaquatic is quite hard to define because it can range from animals that spend very little time in the water to animals that spend almost their entire lives in the water. For example, sea lions spend almost their entire lives in the water, while water voles spend much less or even no time in the water at all, living in both wet and dry habitats. Still, Both are labeled as semiaquatic. Kyphora is covered in vast swamps. These habitats have existed since the invasion of land and provide homes for countless creatures. Some of the most common large animals in these habitats are the divirudont. They primarily feed on the groves of Pterotegro and Ixella figro. However, these feeding areas are commonly broken up by rivers, which the divirudont will have to cross if they wish to continue feeding. Over time, they may become better adapted for moving through the water. The ability to efficiently move through water has several key advantages. The most obvious of which is the ability to move to new feeding grounds. It also allows these divirudont to easily escape land-based predators. Additionally, the aquatic vegetation is a welcomed substitute to their diet. This may place them in minor competition with the inguna, but they can always escape to land where food is still abundant. Their feet may broaden into protopaddles, allowing them to swim through the water with great efficiency. Their overall body shape may also become less bulky and more streamlined. We will call these freshwater megafauna the baleodonts. The baleodonts may start to spend more time grazing in the water in order to avoid competition with their more terrestrial relatives. This may mean further adapting for an aquatic life. Perhaps their respiratory openings may move to the top of their bodies, allowing them to breathe while floating above water. They may also develop specialized sphericals, allowing them to close their respiratory holes when submerged. As these aquatic forms continue to spread throughout Kyphora's waterways, they may eventually arrive at the ocean. The ocean presents many challenges that these creatures have to adapt to if they are to take up oceanic life. As these aquatic forms continue to spread throughout Kyphora's waterways, they may eventually arrive at the ocean. The ocean presents many challenges that these creatures have to adapt to if they are to take up oceanic life. The ocean is a place with many different habitats, but these baleodonts will be restricted to the uppermost ones, seeing as they need air to breathe. The baleodont are traditionally herbivorous and may start their transition to oceanic life by grazing on aquatic foliage near the coasts. Kyphora's beaches offer a safe haven from aquatic predators, should they need to flee. The hind pairs of legs on these baleodont may become more fin or flipper-like, allowing them to keep pace with even fully aquatic creatures. This would come in handy when escaping predators, of which there are many. We will call these creatures the Eovatanus. However, these creatures won't be able to take up a fully aquatic life because of one key limitation. These creatures' young hatch from eggs which must be laid out of water. This means the mother has to crawl onto land to lay the eggs, which requires her to have at least some ability to move on land. However, this restriction dissolves with one key development. If the mother were able to retain the eggs within her body until they hatch, she would have no need to go on land. Thus, these creatures can become fully seafaring. This is an example of ovoviviparity, in which the mother retains the young within the body with no added nutrients being delivered to the embryos. The Eovatanus that still retain the capacity for land locomotion are restricted to sizes at which they can still move around on land. These fully aquatic Eovatanus won't have the same restriction, allowing them to reach truly massive sizes. Creatures with gills are restricted in their maximum size due to the surface area of their gills compared to the rest of the body. However, these aquatic Eovatanus won't have this restriction due to their efficient respiratory system. These early ocean-faring eovatanus may stick to their herbivorous lifestyle and even diversify into filter feeders. This dietary change allows these already massive creatures to grow even larger, with plankton being in such abundance that food is almost limitless. Their tentacles may be covered in bristles to filter the water. They may swim by beating their fins in a wave-like motion, with each fin being locked under another. These creatures' eyes may be positioned upon large stalks, allowing them to see danger from any direction. Members of this clade can grow to sizes of up to 20 meters. We will call these ocean giants the Prolevatanus. However, these creatures may soon start diversifying their diet. Perhaps this may begin with early live-bearing eovatanus supplementing their diet with small animals that they dig up while grazing. As this behavior develops, some species may begin actively seeking out prey, no longer competing with other eovatanus for grazing patches. With the advent of live birth, these eovatanus along with their herbivorous cousins will spread out into the open oceans. Here they would face competition from the Whooponidas, who are already the top predators. But these creatures have the advent of larger sizes. As previously stated, aquatic creatures have a maximum limit to their size because of how they take in oxygen. These predatory eovatanus don't have such restrictions, and thus they may grow much larger, specializing to take down ocean megafauna. They may hold their tentacles flat against their faces, giving them a streamlined form. They may also have a more developed tail that is able to be used in locomotion. These creatures' main locomotive power comes from the two groups of fins positioned on their sides. These fins are beaten one after the other, very similar to how the extinct pliosaurs of Earth are thought to have moved. We will call these fearsome hunters the Daguetanus. Kyphora isn't the only continent that would host semi-aquatic life. Perhaps a group of lingurid find the abundance of dead animals that wash up on shore a much easier source of food than hunting. This causes them to spend more time near the shore searching for food, and over time, some may venture into the water for food. Initially, they may swim out in search of slow-moving prey such as the viata, but as they spend more time in the water, other prey may catch their eye. Prey that can swim would be almost impossible for these creatures to catch without aquatic adaptations. Therefore, these creatures' limbs may become flippers, propelling them through the water. Their body may become streamlined, cutting through the water like a knife. These adaptations would allow them to effectively catch pelagic prey. They may also evolve specialized muscles allowing them to hold their breath until they are back on land. We will call them the prototendons. Like the eovatanus, the prototendon are restricted to land because of how they birth their young. The prototendons, like all their relatives, lay oothekas, which contain all their young in one capsule. These oothekas need access to air in order for the young to survive, which means they need to be late on land. So, parents need to be able to move on land to lay their oothekas. This is why you can find hundreds of oothekas scattered on rocks by the beach. If the prototendon are to break this tie to the land, they will need some way to birth their young in the water. Yet again, they may evolve ovoviviparity, where they contain their ootheka inside themselves, and when the young hatch, she releases them. This adaptation completely breaks these prototendons' tie to the land, allowing them to become fully aquatic. Their respiratory openings would move to the top of their bodies, allowing them to breathe while resting on the surface. These fully aquatic animals would feed on the abundance of small swift prey, and also the numerous viata on the seabed. They could use their tongue to grab and impale prey, leaving no chance of escape. We will call them the tripotendon. Semiaquatic animals are not bound to be ocean dwellers. Perhaps, in the lakes and rivers on Nymphus, a group of canterid finds the water more promising than the land. The canterid, being as adaptable as they are, may find a place in the rivers, feeding primarily on plant matter and small bottom feeders. As of now, they only take short dives in which they uproot a clump of plants and bring it to the surface to eat. As this behavior develops, they may be incentivized to spend more time in the water. Longer dives gives them more opportunities to feed and forage among the vegetation. Over time, their legs may develop webbing between their two toes, allowing them to swim by kicking their legs back and forth in a motion strikingly similar to how humans move their legs while swimming. This may come with a flexible, streamlined body, allowing them to spend much longer under the surface. However, the freshwater ecosystems of Nymphus are very muddy and visibility is constantly low. In order to hunt prey and avoid obstacles, these creatures may develop a way of sensing their environment without sight. Electroreception is the ability of an organism to detect and respond to electrical stimuli. Most electroreceptive creatures on Earth have all developed fluid-filled pits, which may be located on the protrusion on these creatures' heads. Passive electroreception is the ability to detect and analyze external electrical fields in their environment. Active electroreception is the ability of an animal to create their own electric field and respond to any distortion in said field when something disturbs it. On Earth, animals with this ability have an electric organ located at the tail or running along the length of the body. These creatures may have a similar organ derived from specialized muscles that allows them to produce an electric field and detect when it's disturbed. This will greatly increase their hunting prowess. We will call this clade the fluvicator. The oceans are enormous, and cataloging every clade within their waters would be near impossible. The clades outlined in this video will serve as an adequate picture of aquatic life after the Great Anoxic event. In the next episode, we will return to land to see how continued environmental change creates one of the most influential biomes on Makirraji. A huge thank you to all the artists on Discord who made fan art for this episode. Your contributions to this project are invaluable. If you want to join the Discord to chat, make fan art, or get access to some exclusive perks, then you can find the link in the description below. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share your thoughts on these incredible creatures. See you in the next episode.